I want to reflect on something that happened in the aftermath of my wonderful conversation about paganism and his journey, to find himself, his roots, and the wider political implications of that in the contemporary world. It was a wonderful conversation. As I said, he's a gentle, thoughtful gentleman, sincere. You can see it. He's not any aggressive or sort of malicious person in any sort of way whatsoever. We were talking about his journey to discover and connect with his ancestral and cultural roots. Just looking at some notes here, right? The pre-Christian heritage of Europe and himself as a European. Right? So we talked about its relevance today, the resistance to globalization and the erasure of all differences and national identities toward this sort of one homogeneous global identity, paganism and its relevance to ecological movements, to women's rights, also to things, a critique of materialism that paganism represents. Let's see what else. Self-discovery, right? A part of his journey of self-discovery, his identity, his purpose, meaning in life. Right? These are the types of things we were discussing, and it was a great, great, great conversation. But you know what? After we finished the conversation, just chatting a bit after, and I got a surprising request from him. He asked if I could edit something out of the conversation. I'm not going to say what it is, obviously, because I agreed. But when I agreed to edit it, I didn't like it. I don't like to have to edit things. I usually just publish it raw. It's like my listeners are listening into a real conversation between two engaged people, intelligent, high-level conversation I hope to provide, and just let it flow. That's what I want to do. So I don't like that, and I don't like the idea of censorship in general. In the realm of ideas in particular, perhaps in social life you can censor things if they're children, if whatever, but on an intellectual level, when you're just talking about ideas with other people, there should be no censorship of ideas in the discussion of ideas. But he asked me to do it, and I agreed. I was reluctant to do it at first. I didn't want to. But, we were discussing, then I was asking him, what exact part was it? Was it this whole part you wanted out? And he said, no, it's just this one little section. And then I realized it hit me, right? Based on that, what it was that in the EU where he's living, and in Germany, he might be prosecuted for thinking wrong things. It's a weird, it's a terrible situation. I mean, Europe, the home of the Enlightenment, the home of where free speech came from. Although America, the United States of America, pushed it, right? They pushed it the most. It was a European idea from the European Enlightenment that was brought over to America, and now Europe is, it is so tyrannical. It's thought police. It's totally Orwellian. It is the atmosphere in Europe and to a lesser extent, but very importantly in the United States. It's tyrannical. It's repressive. I mean, people talk about like China, for example. All right, I can understand in China because it's sedition that they are worried about, undermining the communist government. But if you have attitudes that, are not, socially acceptable, you're not jailed for that. I mean, there was a period in the Cultural Revolution where things like that were happening, and the Chinese know where that led to, and they are very critical of their Cultural Revolution period, and they don't want to go back to that. It was backward on all sorts of levels, right? And I'm even thinking, in the Caribbean, I feel I'm so free really to speak about what I want, really. We can talk about subjects and things that you wouldn't be able to talk about in the United States and Europe. You know, these are supposed to be free countries, but you cannot broach certain topics. You know, I mean, like even Hinduism, right? So I'm a Hindu, and you know, ancestrally Hindu and so forth. My son goes to an Aryan school, right? Arya Samaj. It's our Aryan heritage. Look, I mean, and I purposely wore this. You know, it has this swastika on it, right? These are little swastikas, right? The same one that the National Socialists use. It's not backwards, it's not reverse. It's the same one. The term is Sanskrit, right? It's not a Hakenkreuz, which is a German thing. It is a swastika, which means good luck. That's what it means in Sanskrit. These are ancient symbols. These are our people's ancient symbols, our Aryan people's ancient symbols. Right? But, you know, I don't know. Would I be jailed for saying that in Europe or something? It's really, really terrible. I don't know if you guys know this episode of the Twilight Zone, where, you know, that old series from the United States, where there's this little boy who had these psychic powers to punish people and expel people. And he only wanted people in this small little town to think good thoughts. Right? And it would be sunshine every day, never raining, but the crops were dying or whatever. But that's what the little boy wanted. And nobody could complain about anything. He only wanted people to think happy thoughts all the time. And whenever someone was not thinking happy thoughts, he would banish them to the cornfield. And, you know, with some gruesome punishments that the child's mind, out of his anger, would send you to. And that's like, you know, that was an allegory about the right wing in the 1950s and 1960s. But today it perfectly fits the left wing. Right? I mean, so I've now lived long enough to see this change. It is incredible. And they just don't see it. You know, they think they're, you know, for all this good and fighting hate and all this sort of thing. It's really something else, you know. And this is why I really more or less support all these what they call far right parties in Europe and so forth. You know, people think, oh, you know, well, they hate you because you're not white or whatever. I don't know if they do or they don't. I don't think so. I've met a few of them, and it doesn't matter. I don't want to live in their countries anyways. I have my own country, right? But there's this battle in Europe. You know, the left. You know, they're in this weird alliance with the biggest corporations in the world. The left used to be about ordinary people, but now they're in for all these sort of marginal deviants and in alliance with the biggest corporations in the world. And they hate ordinary people. They despise and look down upon ordinary people. You know, that's sort of like their enemy, because ordinary people to them are racist and, I don't know, brainwashed or something. It's really weird. And there's a battle for Britain. Well, not Britain, Europe and the Western world, right? I am in the Caribbean and the West Indies. It's not necessarily my battle, although we are connected and we are part of it. But I really hope that this battle in Europe and the Western world is won not by the left, but by, you know, the forces of nationalism, not globalism. And the reflection of what these people could do. It also ties in a lot to Michael Rechtenwald. I'll have it on my Toss Back Tuesdays. I'll do a toss back to Rechtenwald as well, so because there's a real connection there. So take care, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.